Welcome to season 4 of the CliftonStrengths podcast, where we'll dive deep into how CliftonStrengths themes build powerful partnerships and help teams thrive. I'm Jim Collison, Gallup's CliftonStrengths community manager.
And I'm Jillian White, Gallup subject matter expert on culture and leadership, and our lead subject matter expert for Clifton Strengths.
Today's theme is positivity. We'll explore what this thing brings, what it needs, and how it fosters collaboration. And as always, Jillian, welcome.
Thank you, Jim. This is a fun one to get to do because both of us do have this one in our top 10. So we may be able to bring a little personal experience to this as well.
I love this. Let's back up a little bit. What is positivity?
Yeah, so I always love to remind people the basics of this strength. So, at the heart of positivity is a contagious enthusiasm. It's a relationship building strength. It has an ability to uplift other people, to celebrate people around them, get others excited about where they're going and what they can do. And I was thinking about this yesterday. I was last night, they had a tornado watch in our area. And I was thinking about I walked outside and right after the sky cleared, the sun came through. And I thought that right there is a picture of almost this image of the sun will come out tomorrow and find the silver lining that positivity can bring. I also think I lived downtown Chicago for 16 years. And if you've ever been a part of watching a live marathon and you see people cheering someone on with a sign, that positivity is that one that can bring that uplifting, encouraging, almost cheerleader type aspect to the people around them that brings that uplifting element. So, yeah, Jim, how would you say this one shows up for you?
Yeah, well, I think it's heavily influenced by influencing, right? So relationship
Uh-huh.
building theme, but I use it as, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are all influencing themes. And of course, in the work that I do, that's an important aspect. So it's kind of gotten trained or seen through a filter of that a little bit. And I like to think of it in a way, how can I bring the brightest spots in things to move people, right?
Hmm.
That's the goal. So a group of people, things are going bad. Hey, but there's always this, right? Or we could be going this direction, or here's some great things we could pull out of this, right? Here's some lessons that we learned, some of those kinds of things. So for me, it's definitely filtered through those other influencing themes.
Hmm.
Sometimes it gets this Pollyannish, or this over positive type thing. Again, we always have to remind folks these are successful things that we do from a talent perspective. And being happy doesn't necessarily always mean success. So I always try to think of it in terms, at least for me, of how am I using this, in the things that I do to drive success. And for me, moving large groups of people or finding the best possible outcomes is a way I do that. I don't know, you
Yeah.
spent a lot of time consulting on this. An example that maybe you pulled out of that?
Hey, I always love thinking about these examples. And one that I have in mind is a banking client that I worked with. And this individual, she was a head of learning and development at this company. And it was really fun to see how her positivity showed up in celebrating the people around her. And I think the way I would see that was in one on ones, but also through a team element. She was someone who, in her one on one, she was very good at saying, "Hey, what's something that you're really proud of that you're working on right now?" And Jim, you and I know this, but looking at all of our Gallup research around just what creates high performing teams, we know one of the drivers of a high performing team is actually that you feel like you've received praise or recognition in the last 7 days. And I think what I saw this leader do was be incredibly engaging with her team. So she would listen when someone would say, "Hey, here's what I'm really proud of that I'm working on." And she would find a way to celebrate that or spotlight that for the team. And she might have had some strategic that was showing up with that too, that brought that sense of influence with it. And then what I watched with her as she led the team is she also used some collective opportunities to say, "Hey, you know what? We just launched a new program. Like, let's take a minute and celebrate this huge milestone as a team." And she would call out what everybody contributed to that. So that sense of celebration, she also had a bit of a just we call it the contagious enthusiasm, but a bit of a fun loving kind of upbeat, love of laughter that I feel like brought a lightness to the team. And it was really neat to see the ripple effect that had on engagement for the team.
I love that example, bringing it back to recognition, because that's one of those
Yeah.
success factors, right? We can measure that on a team, and we can say if it's happening or if it's not happening, right? And so I love that idea of positivity being one of those talents to bring that to light and to really light up a team. And it's just it's a great example. We have a new section in Gallup Access that would newly named the Connections tab out there if you log in your Strengths dashboard. In that dashboard, it now allows you to compare your themes. You can share that with someone else. Once you do, you can do some theme comparisons there. In that section is a I bring and I need tool that you can spend some time with your partners looking at this. We're going to practice a little bit of this today, Jillian. When we think about positivity, what does it bring?
Yeah, so a few things that positivity brings if I'm partnering with somebody who has this strength, they are likely going to bring that silver lining. So they're going to look even in a difficult moment and see where we can either learn from it, where we can move forward, where there's an opportunity in it. So that gift of finding the silver lining is something that positivity brings. I think as a result of that, this strength actually has some resilience and perseverance. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but the strength actually can feel the highs and lows. It almost has to feel the low at points in order to know how to uplift it. But I think what that allows it to do is to actually go through maybe difficult seasons, but see how it will or can get better, or to actually help make it better. So that resilience and perseverance is something that can be experienced through someone with that high positivity. And then finally, you heard this in my example, but just that contagious energy. These are people who oftentimes can just sense that moment where, maybe you've been working really hard together and you just need a laugh or you need a little release valve. And I think these individuals can be good at bringing that celebration and some of that just encouraging, uplifting spirit to a partnership.
Yeah, I love that. Lisa, through chat, we don't normally do this
Yeah.
in chat, but it brought it out, this idea. You said silver lining, and
Uh huh.
I'm kinda wondering, that is kind of an English phrase that we use.
Mm,
Pollyanna should also be another one of those. I think this is kind of an opportunity as we think about, I was just in Portuguese this morning,
yeah.
thinking about how does this translate into other languages, thinking about that. So, we'll maybe continue to think about this. We have those ideas, throw them down in chat, in our chat or in the YouTube chat. What does it need? We oftentimes positivity is one of those that's pretty powerful and can be overpowering, but it has needs. What does it need?
Yeah. So what does somebody need if you're partnering with them and they have high positivity? They need opportunities to actually encourage and uplift others. So they need just space to be able to do that. They need freedom to experience some of the highs and lows. I think this is a little bit of a misunderstood area of positivity because we often associate it with the high, but they do need sometimes to feel the low in order to like bring the high, if that makes sense. So I think allowing some of that freedom of experience the joy and the drama of life, and then opportunities. You've heard me say this on previous podcasts, but part of what I've just noticed about these strengths is oftentimes what they bring to other people they need themselves. So if positivity is really good at encouraging and uplifting and celebrating, it actually needs that itself. It's going to be better when it feels like there's some authentic celebration, when it feels like it's actually getting encouraged as well. And just a little of a funny story around that, Jim. I remember leading one of the week long certification courses at one point, and we did a little an experiment in the room, and we said, you know what? What if we took everybody who has high positivity and we put them around at tables next to people who seemed like they needed a little uplifting in the class. And we checked in after that day of arranging the tables this way, and those with high positivity were drained. So what positivity needs is it's does not thrive when it feels like it's around chronic negativity and it can't uplift the environment. They need environments that they can be in where it's okay if it's hard, but they need the opportunity to actually uplift and bring up, and that's when it's at its best.
Yeah, and if I can't do that, I just manufacture it. Let's just be really clear about that. Just make it happen. In the new Clifton Strengths Top 5 report, we've added a section on theme dynamics, what 2 themes might look like together. It's actually one of the most popular sections in that new report. If you haven't checked it out, you should. When we think about positivity, there's a common pairing with that out of our database. What do you think that would be?
I have a feeling some of our strengths practitioners might be able to guess this one. But positivity most commonly pairs with woo. And if you think about how those two show up, Jim, I know you and I have talked some about what we call an influencing package because we oftentimes see even woo, positivity, and communication show up in individuals. But let's break those down. So, what is woo? Woo is really social influence. And what is positivity? It's more emotional or relational influence. If you did add communication on there, you've got verbal influence. So put those things together, especially just that woo positivity pairing. I'll actually read the statement that we've got in our report. Socially and emotionally influential. You find it easy and enjoyable to meet a new person or give hope to someone in despair. So a lot of energy that comes with combine and influential energy that comes in combining those strengths.
Talk about the partnership opportunities there.
Yeah. So, I always like to talk about just who would be a partner that really lights up this strength for someone. And then who do you need to complement you that's going to help address some potential blind spots of that strength? On the side of a catalyst partner, I think a few fun combinations that you can look at is something like positivity and futuristic. Imagine what that partnership looks like. It's an ability to dream about a better future. How fun is that? Think about something like positivity and individualization. What does that allow somebody with positivity to do? To celebrate what makes people unique. So, those two things together could be really fun. Maybe developer in there. It would help that positivity celebrate progress in people and create a growth culture around there. And then go back to even the ones we said are common to show up in people. I think those could have a little fun working together. Bring some woo and communication in your partnerships alongside that positivity. You will have a real chance to have influential celebration and some energy in that partnership that I think will feed both sides. And then on the flip side of it, so who's the complementary partners? What do we know? You mentioned Pollyanna, which might be a bit of an English term, but really it's
And an old
just
one at that.
an old one.
Old
That's
or
true. I guess it's based on the story of Pollyanna, right?
uh-huh.
But really this character who just always looked at the bright side. And so what's a little bit of the danger with that is that you might not always look at problems or risk in your natural default. So intentionally partnering or listening to voices like deliberative, analytical, restorative, that's good at problem solving. These might all help balance out some of those tendencies of positivity. I also think something that helps ground positivity because it does feel the highs and the lows. So something like harmony or consistency that brings some of that balance could be a good counterbalance to that positivity. And then you heard this example earlier, but one of the ones I think is a fun complementary partnership is that positivity and strategic as well because it helps. And I see this in organizations culturally. If you create a culture where you recognize and incentivize the behaviors that you want to see more of, you can actually do a lot to evolve your culture in a very strategic way. And I think those two strengths together could be very good at helping to spotlight and celebrate in a very strategic way that drives the behaviors you want to see more of.
We have some tips for leaders, teams, and individuals. Let's start with the leaders, though. How can leaders recognize and harness positivity in their teams and organizations?
Yeah, first of all, think about just spotting it on your team. These are typically your people who are probably bringing a little energy, bringing that moment to kind of uplift people around them, a word of encouragement. They may, like I said, feel the highs and lows a little bit more. Think about positioning them in environments where they can positively influence. Think about leveraging their ability to celebrate. Maybe they're the person who you bring in to say, hey, we've got a milestone on the team or this project. Like, how could we think about really making that feel special for the team? And then just remember to celebrate them in meaningful ways too. That's that flip side of positivity, where it's going to be meaningful that they get back what they're also giving to other people.
What about teams, maybe onboarding someone with or working with somebody that has high, positivity?
Yeah, I always think if I'm bringing somebody in for their first day on the job and they have the strength, like what's going to make it a great first day for them? And when I think about positivity, it does love a little enthusiasm around it. And so I think having something that is a bit of an enthusiastic welcome could feel good for that positivity. It is a relationship building strength. And Jim, I know you and I have had some fun kind of debate around this that, it does have some of that influencing ability too. We do, it's small, it's short walls between those domains. It does influence as well. But it is a relationship building strength. And so connecting them with some positive colleagues that they can have that quick relational energy with, I think will feel really good to them as well.
We think about individuals in partnerships, and you and I are an example of this, right? We both
Yeah.
have and I think it comes into the podcast. Like we
Yeah.
use it in a partnership together. This is one of those where the two themes don't clash. Sometimes when you have
Mhm.
two people with the same theme, not that it always happens, right? But we definitely feed off that power. What other ways, what other meaningful ways when we think about using positivity in partnerships?
Yeah, and that's a great example, Jim. I mean, I think it's what allows us to have a little bit of fun with this and not take ourselves too seriously. So that positivity, we try to share things in a way that is uplifting to the people who are serving through this. I think for anybody who has high positivity, I always think, how can you aim it at helping others in this series, right? It's not about me; it's about we in this series, and so I would just encourage anyone with high positivity looking at being a better partner, find ways to meaningfully celebrate and uplift your partners, right? So think about, who are those people who are most important to you in life, at work, through what you are doing. And ask questions like, how do you like to be celebrated, or what's something you're proud of, right? And look for those opportunities to celebrate and uplift your partners in ways that are meaningful for them.
I think with that, we'll remind everyone to take full advantage of all the resources we do have available around positivity or about positivity in Gallup Access. Mark will appreciate that joke. Log in, go to the resource section, put positivity in the search bar. All the podcasts and written material we've done about positivity out there. Continue the learning. Love to have you do that as well. Want to thank you for joining us today. If you're listening live, stay around for a little bit of a mid show. If you're listening on the podcast or on YouTube, just click next. We'll have another one ready for you. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.